supposed to be streaming, am I not?
We don't have any
I am
immediate
broadcasting.
plans to add more support for mirroring. We do have a person who's working, more or less full-time on graphics for SL now. That's Graham, who's come back on board recently. It's if we're going to tackle something like that, that would be more of a question for him. But generally, there's a big concern about performance, and it would have to be something that received quite a lot of attention to be able to find a way to pull it off. Definitely couldn't promise anything. Let's see, I know people will scream without us doing anything special. I don't have to work on that part.
Speaking of land impact changes, are they going to go up, I'm assuming, or what's the deal with that?
It's not so much a matter of trying to make them higher or lower, it's trying to make them more accurate. There's places where the way we're doing the calculations doesn't really reflect the performance impact of some of the stuff that's out there. So the goal is to try to make the numbers more realistic. So what that's probably going to mean in practice is some things are.
Did I lose voice? Did I lose voice here?
I'm hearing you okay.
Oh, okay.
You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
So I have a stupid question, and I think I already know the answer. It's probably no. But in the future, is SL ever going to be able to have, PBR shaders? I think I did that wrong, but I think the answer is no.
There's never been any decision that we would never support PBR shaders. It's certainly one of the things that Graham is aware that there's a request for, but there's a whole lot of other stuff in the same category. So I think that's probably just in the maybe someday category at this point.
Okay, so it's not a definite no, never, ever, ever, ever then.
Oh no. No, it's we rarely rule things out definitively. It's more a matter of just deciding what the top priority is this week or this year. Will land textures ever be changed? Boy, I sure hope so. Yeah, our land textures are not great. They're too. The textile density is too low, and so everything looks kind of blurry all the time. That is also on our radar as a possible project.
I thought there was a change to the particle system in the past. Ribbons were added, I think, and a few other things right around the time Pathfinder was introduced. Was it not, I think?
term metalness. Say SL needs to be more metal.
Please?
As great as a real metalness shader would be in SL, the biggest thing that you'd have to do to make SL look really, really nice is make the environmental gloss shader not look like complete ass.
I'd be happy to see a Jira for it, although you might want to use slightly different wording.
Sorry.
Yeah. Wording is up to you, of course. Let's see, I got a ping from Anchor. Did he ever come by? Anchor in the house? No. Okay. Maybe he's not swinging by. He did mention that the proposed project viewer is in QA, which was what we'd said earlier. So yeah, it's really down to the timing on the QA testing and whether they discover any must-fix bugs. So I'm hoping we'll have something out pretty soon, but we'll see.
So we're saying we're going to have a viewer soon for Animesh?
For Bakes on Mesh, we've been talking about the Bakes on Mesh viewer that Anchor's been working on.
Well, that's almost as good.
No, I think they said that the Animesh viewer, project viewer, is already out and available. Is that right, Mark?
Yeah, the Animesh viewer is out. I expect a lot of people here are using it already. It's just that Animesh isn't supported in most regions. It's not supported on the main grid, and it's not supported in most regions of Aditi either. So, before we would go live on the main grid, we would have to, finish the work we're doing on land impact calculations, and we would have to fix any remaining, must-fix bugs in Animesh viewer. And at that point, then we would start the process of getting the Animesh viewer promoted up to be the default viewer.
How many people are working on Animesh horses? I think I know of at least 4. And I have one too.
I mean, the problem of like wings conflicting with your horse is really kind of inherent to the way our skeleton works. You know, a lot of meshes try to repurpose joints for some particular use, which means they may conflict with other meshes that want to use those joints for something else. So, I mean, that's not really an issue specifically with avatars versus animesh or whatever. Just any time you're trying to make rigged meshes that cooperate with each other.
There was a hair creator that uses the left hind leg in her hair to animate a couple of strands of hair. So you wouldn't be able to use that hair and a horse, I believe. So I'm hoping that maybe Animesh could change something like that.
Well, I mean, the only way Animesh would affect that would be if you were using like an Animesh object as your hair instead, you know, but I'm not sure how well that's going to work, because the problem is your Animesh object, you know, it can be attached to you, but its animations aren't going to be synced to your avatar's animations. So,
Oh yeah,
you know,
that's true.
could you get anything that looked good with that? I'm really not sure. Has anybody done experiments with that kind of thing yet?
I would imagine that, you know, certain things are just kind of inherent in how you move. So if you turn left, your hair is going to move a certain way. It doesn't matter what AO you use. So there are certain things that you could do, yeah. I mean, that would pretty much match most AOs and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the question was having something like Animesh hair, where, you know, you could have a whole lot of joints available for moving your hair around that way, since it has its own skeleton, but then it wouldn't be synced up to your avatar's motion for the most part. So I'm not sure if that would work well enough to be useful or not.
There was a scripter way back when who did it was for animating you know, just regular objects, prims and stuff like that. And he wrote something to where the animation only worked when, you know, you sat or when you walked or something like that. I really wish I knew how that was done, because however that was done, it might work for. No, it was a puppeteer. It was a different creator. Could work for maybe the fixing of the hair syncing up with the movement of the avatar. That'd be neat.
There's a question about change to LL particle system to include additional parameters. The short answer there is that I have not worked with LL particle system. Don't know if that would be, you know, how hard that would be or how useful that would be. Best way to propose that would be to file a JIRA for it. Then it would go to feature triage and, you know, talk about it. A huge change in the sense of hard to do, or a huge change in the sense of making a big difference for people? Okay, yeah, I'd love to see a JIRA about that talks a bit about kind of what the gains would be, as well as what the proposal looks like. Okay, sounds good. Lucy asks about total worn try counts to affect how many Animesh objects you can attach. Not looking at that currently, but that would be one possible way to go.
I really don't understand this conversation about like textures and texture size and low quality. My elephant uses a 1K. Everything on that elephant uses a 1K texture. So if you can't have detail in a shoe, you got issues.
No, you missed the whole conversation. They're talking about downgrading textures. So that your 1K element would be 512 or even down to 256.
If you're a shoe uses,
I think that's what they're talking
a shoe
about.
shouldn't use more than one texture. Two, you could make an argument. If you're using more than one texture on a stupid shoe, that's ridiculous.
Well, see, the problem is that not everybody can jump into Maya or Blender and start creating mesh. So there's a lot of people that want to be involved in selling mesh and making mesh, and they rely on the full permission content creators. And so when you go to make something that's for other people that are not as savvy as others, then you have to make your UV maps so that they can logically in their brains texture that. And a shoe has many, many different parts to it. So fitting all of those textures onto one map is kind of a difficult thing to do. And have somebody adequately be able to texture it, because then you're talking about, you know, the shoelaces, scrunching the UVs all the way down, scaling them all the way down, the eyelets, the tongue, the sole, everything. So I don't even know why. I mean, it's 2018. You can go to Walmart and you can buy a Chrome computer for $200, and it will handle 1K textures in Second Life. I am running a 10-year-old computer, and I create mesh and I rig. So, and I have I have some problems, but I have few. So it's like it's not anything that can't run a 1K texture. It's probably not even hardware still running, basically.
I don't think it really comes down to rendering a 1K texture. It comes down to rendering a million 1K textures. You know?
So, Veer, has there been any push on the direction of increasing the size of the video memory allowed for the viewer? As long as we're talking about killing everyone's video card slowly. Oh. Oddly, no. At least last I checked, the only viewer that allowed for greater than 2 gigabytes of texture memory was Black Dragon.
You can upload a 2048 texture to Second Life.
Oh, God.
With Second
Sorry,
Life
my viewer crashed.
Welcome back.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think somebody was just starting to ask a question in voice when I crashed. Anybody remember what that was?
I was asking if there was any headway on upgrading the allowed texture memory in video RAM for the 64-bit viewers. It's still at 2K, isn't it? Or not 2K, 2 gigabytes.
I do not know the status on that. I can ask around after the meeting.
You'll have to excuse me for playing with this cat too. This is like the first time I've seen it actually working. So
Oh, that's very cool. Question about SL being all on cloud. Not really. I mean, that's something we're working on. Trying to get the back-end services moved, out of the colos and into the cloud. But I haven't heard any recent updates on exactly where we are with that. It's a big project. Cloud rendering in the sense of rendering clouds, or in the sense of rendering in the cloud? Yeah, we had a version of Viewer that worked in the cloud at one point. I don't remember the name of the service now, but it was one of these things where you could, run your application on a server and then, just stream the built-in video to your lower-end machine. But I don't think we have that anymore. I don't think it really found a market. So go, yeah, that's it. Yeah, would we do that in house? Probably not. If people didn't want it when we were providing it through another service, unless the business case for that changed. That's that would be a call that's above my pay grade through another service. Let's see. In proposing a Jira, which was more practical for immediate implementation? One, LSL support for applying and removing textures. Two, allow alpha masks to be used on textures. I think something involving alpha masks would be more likely. Hooking LSL in to control the bake service would be a pretty big deal, and I don't think that would be soon. I could imagine there may be ways to wedge in some additional alpha masking. That wouldn't be quite as big a project, but we'd still have to look at it, of course. Lucia, I think I basically gave a rundown on kind of the methodology for land impact in a forum post a while back. We're still doing basically the same thing. It's triangle count based. If your lower resolution LODs aren't super detailed relative to your high resolution LODs, then you wouldn't be charged extra for those. Then those would basically wind up costing you additional triangles. And there's going to be a base charge to account for the overhead of having the skeleton animated in the scene. Other than that, what I'm working on now is trying to get all the right numbers to attach to that. So, what is the cost of the base skeleton versus how much you're charging per 1,000 triangles, sort of thing. Trying to get some test data for across different machines. I don't. Lucy, other than that, I don't really have any numbers to tell you yet. Sorry, I will definitely keep you guys posted as soon as I have anything. Graham is, I don't know if he goes to other meetings. I've invited him to this one, and I think he may have a conflict, but hopefully he'll be able to come by sometimes. If you want to raise questions about the viewer pipeline, this meeting is fine. Oz's meeting is really more for kind of how our viewer is integrating with third-party viewers. And of course, if you've got a detailed or even semi-detailed bug, it's always good to file a JIRA for that. Discard mechanism is broken. This is pixel area on screen. This is probably as good a group as any. It's better if we can find a week where Graham can make it, but certainly feel free to raise those kinds of things. Okay, well, we are just about at time. Schedule note, I will be out next week. There's no meeting, and I'm also on vacation, so there's not going to be a lot of new stuff happening on Animesh. And then I think we have a meeting in 2 weeks, if I remember the current schedule. Basic prim links set that costs 14,000 land impact. How do you manage that? Yeah, that's the kind of thing that we would want to consider for the Arctan project that Graham's taking over. It's not the kind of thing that I'm looking at for Animesh. For Animesh, we're trying to do a fairly simple reassessment that, basically just prices things in terms of geometric complexity, and then we can do a more extensive pass on that when we do the more general, update to land impact and rendering cost. I think I run into a lot more cases that go the other way, where something has just an absolutely horrible system impact and costs almost nothing in land impact. But obviously it's bad either way.
I had a simple mesh that I exported out of Maya, and the land impact, the whole LOD thing was outrageous, and so then I tried it in Blender, and it was the cost was higher from the DA file that I exported out of Blender than it was in Maya. So I don't know if I accidentally doubled the thing in Blender or what, but then 2 days later I uploaded the same mesh and it seemed reasonable and normal. So I don't know.
That's interesting. There are some things that get calculated at upload time that aren't completely deterministic, so it's actually possible to get a little different behavior, on 2 different uploads. So I don't know if that was related to what you saw or not, but it's a kind of an unfortunate feature of the way our
That was the first and only time that I've seen something like that happen. So most of the time it's normal. So.
About to wrap up now. I saw there was some discussion about being tied to object scale. I mean, that's one of the big changes that we're making with Animesh, is that the cost function we're working on now really isn't tied to the object scale. The problem is with a rigged object, you don't really even know the scale, or the simulator doesn't know the scale at runtime because it can be affected by animations. So that's one of the main reasons. Something that doesn't look at the prim scale, which isn't used for rig meshes anyway, but it does look at density. Yeah, there are definitely other cases where the handling of scale is problematic, and that's one of the main things we want to look at for the Arctan project. And yeah, it is spelled that way. All right. Well, I should run now. I will see you, I think, in a couple of weeks. But the schedule is on the wiki page. So talk to you then.
Thanks, Fear.
Bye, Veer. Enjoy your vacation.
Oh, thanks. I think my viewer's crashing again, but if you can hear me, thanks.